This is Advisorpedia's Power Your Advice podcast, and I'm Doug Heikkinen. We're at InvestNet's Elevate Conference, and we're joined by Kevin Knull of TaxStatus. Welcome, Kevin.
Thank you so much for having me, Doug.
It's been a pretty good conference. What are your thoughts on it?
I've been coming to this conference for a long time. I feel like it gets better every year, and the attendance and just the quality of the people and the programming, it just keeps getting better and better. It's great.
Did you get a chance to see the ex-president yesterday, Mr. Bush?
I did. Hopefully everybody got to see it. That was great.
They banned media.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. Well, you missed a good one.
Crazy market out there. How are advisors feeling these days? What are they telling you?
So, as we think about all of these kind of cycles, and, I can remember back in 2001 when, everything was coming apart in, 2008 and 9, advisors often forget that they're paid to work really, really hard in these times. These are the most challenging times to keep the clients' expectations managed and keep them on track and manage the behavior. I hear the experienced folks saying that their clients were prepared and trained for this and they expected it. And some of the newer folks this is the first time they've really seen a downward market cycle with, a lot of unknowns. So, I think those that are communicating well are going to be fine. And those that aren't probably have to step that up a little bit.
Yeah. So the new ones who haven't experienced this before, what should they be talking to their clients about the market?
Well, I'm not one to prognosticate, and I always question whether anyone really knows what's about to happen, particularly right now. I mean, if we watch what's happening with the administration and the world stage, there's probably more unknowns and less stability than we've seen maybe in our lifetime. Again, I think we get back to the basics of being diversified and being smart and following the financial plan and so forth. It's making those erratic decisions in these times what erases those returns and that behavior going out of the market when it goes down and then going back in at the top. It's about the worst thing you could do.
You're here talking about TaxStatus. You built a fantastic tool. Give me some highlights.
Well, very simply, we've built an integration with the IRS to help solve some massive, massive problems that the industry has been struggling with for decades. One of the biggest challenges as an advisor is getting the information you need to render a fiduciary recommendation, a robust recommendation in the best interest of the client. And if you only have a little bit of the information, there's just no way that you can render a sound recommendation. You've got to get the info. And so what we do is we've made it very easy for a client or a prospect to provide consent to go to the IRS and get their information and share it with their advisor. So that advisor then has the full picture and knows every dollar of income and where it came from, knows where all of their accounts are, knows their, tax, the details from their last 10 years of tax returns, and can then take all of that information, assimilate it, and design a better financial plan and make better recommendations.
Can you share any big roadmap items for TaxStatus?
Yeah, we have a few. So right now, the ones that I'm most interested in are things that help the advisors deliver better advice, both scaling the advice as advisors age out and we've got a younger generation of advisors coming in that haven't had the time to learn and grow. And so anything we can do to help scale that advice and make sure that they aren't missing things on top of all of the data that we have. So, with massive amounts of data and potentially hundreds of thousands of data points for a given family, being able to serve all that up and then use AI on top of it to identify here are the top 20 tax planning strategies that client should consider and discuss with their CPA, and things like that really change the efficiency of the firm and the advisor and improve that quality of the advice.
So as you're talking to advisors about this, what are some of the pain points that you're hearing from your conversations?
So, if I think back to my time running Money Guy Pro, it's still the same today. It's really hard to get the information from the client. So how do you onboard a client or a prospect? How do you get the information that you need to build a financial plan? That's the biggest friction point, right, is getting the data. And so that's where we're seeing the number one use case right now for TaxStatus, coupled with finding the held away assets. But, today, right now, particularly if you're bringing on a new client, they may only share a little bit of their information because they've got two other advisors, or maybe they haven't established a level of trust yet, or maybe they just don't remember all the accounts that they have. And so, helping firms find everything and build that complete plan is probably one of the maybe the third biggest issue is how do we help them find the data?
You've had so many different roles in the industry. What are the biggest opportunities out there?
Ooh, I think there's a few. At the end of the day, there's so much room for improvement in the quality of advice, in my opinion. Uh, Much like in medicine, where doctors are faced with the challenge of spending just a small amount of time as they examine their patient and then move on to the next one, we have the same challenges here in our industry. It's difficult when you're trying to produce a very customized, bespoke service to a bunch of different clients that are all have different situations and different scenarios and be able to allocate enough time. So I think one of the biggest opportunities is finding ways to scale that advice and spend the time communicating with the client instead of analyzing data and inputting data and doing all of the kind of grunt work that's necessary in order to build that plan or deliver those recommendations. That is where we truly should be leveraging AI and machine learning. But I think there's an opportunity right now with the aging out of advisors to bring on new clients, to grow organically, to do things that, frankly, we've got an interesting moment in time that there's just not going to be enough advisors here over the next decade or two.
You mentioned AI, and it's talked about in every conversation I've had here, but you have a bit of a different perspective on it. What is that?
So, if you think back over all the years, there's always some buzzword that's got everybody's attention. And I hear everyone saying AI, but I'm not sure most people can spell it yet. And to be sort of funny, um, to me, AI is just that continuation of improving the quality of programming and computing and so forth. It's just getting smarter and smarter. What I don't hear anyone talk about is what the basis of the AI is based upon. AI doesn't mean anything unless you have data. The more data you have, the better the AI. But the fact is, many of the AI companies are really struggling because they just don't have the data. And so it's a difficult thing. They come to you and say, we want to show you what we can do, but in order to do that, you have to give us your data. Well, in order to give you the data, you need to you need to show us what you can do with it. They're stuck in this never-ending cycle. And I think the real power here over the next few years, 10 years, is going to be what kind of data can you get access to leverage that AI and machine learning on top of. And that's the conversation I'm not hearing people have enough right now.
So, follow up on that. How should advisors figure out how to incorporate AI, and where can they look for resources?
Well, shoot, there's a lot of resources. I mean, here at Elevate, there's a lot of AI companies and a lot of conversations around that. Lots of very smart people here. I think most of what I'm seeing right now leveraged in the AI space is what I'll call workflow improvement or enhancement efficiencies. So note taking in your Zoom and Teams calls, helping collate all of your notes into an outline and summarizing, your notes and so forth. And now that expanding into CRM to prep you for your next meeting. I think those are all great use cases. They're less interesting to me, but they're very important, right? So that again is going to help folks not miss key data or things that, to follow up on, because we are all so busy. It's hard to find time to review your notes. I get really interested when I think about like some of our data. Like we know every stock trade that happened last year across a client's entire portfolio and all their custodians. That becomes very interesting to me as I think about AI, because if a firm said, hey, I want to look at that to see what my client's behavior is in certain market cycles. When do they go in and out of the market, or how is their portfolio manager managing that money in and out of a market? When you have thousands of stock trades for a given client in a given year, looking at that data and then overlaying whatever the current events are, all the economic factors and fundamentals, it's going to be fascinating what we see when we start actually consuming and looking at and analyzing that data.
Any big takeaways from the conference?
So I might have a different perspective here. these conferences to me are just such a great way to interact with your peers and colleagues, customers, vendors, and the asset managers to hear what's on their mind. And so I really value hearing the feedback and what people are worried about, where are their challenges. I feel like I spend much more time listening at these types of events, wanting to gather that firsthand, not over a Zoom call or via email or text. I want to see face to face, and that's to me the greatest value of this conference. And frankly, most conferences these days is, we're back to face having those interactions. So, my biggest takeaway is, everybody's still struggling right now. We got a volatile market and challenging times. Everybody's trying to figure out how to grow organically. And, I think having these conversations is keeps me coming out for these types of things.
Kevin, thanks so much for joining us. Your tool, and tool is belittling it, is fantastic. So thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much, Doug. Take care.
For more information, please visit TaxStatus.com. Please follow us on X, LinkedIn, and Facebook, all at Advisorpedia. For everyone at Advisorpedia, our producer Troy Miller, and the Power Your Advice podcast team, this is Doug Heikkinen.